and welcome to Combat Spuds, the weekly combat sports roundup brought to you by the Midweek Mashed Tattie Sportscast. My name's of course Mick, and as always, I'm joined by not just Paul this week, but Harvey is back.
Yeah.
How he's doing, lads?
Hey.
I'm great, thank you very much. Been a busy bee, working very hard. My roller skating was good last week.
I heard you could do it with standing on one leg now, just can't you? You can balance.
Aye.
The flamingo.
Aye. You've got the triple axel nailed shortly, man. Spin.
Righty-ho. Well, seeing as we've got a full squad this week, let's get it on. Just we're a wee bit we're a wee bit scarce in the old news this week, so I'm just going to briefly talk about the situation around Kayla Harrison in MMA, and then we'll move on to pastures anew. So obviously there was a big how do you do towards the end of last year when Harrison's contract was up with the PFL after the conclusion of last season. So she's been courted by all the major organisations. There was official offers put in by PFL themselves originally. Then Bellator and UFC both put offers in. The talk seems to be that the UFC's offer was a wee bit short. So in talking about this originally, I had mentioned how they would want to see her fighting at 145 or 135 consistently in order to bring her over. So it looks like they were interested in her, and she does have one fight at 145 on her record. She did a random fight at Invicta between PFL seasons because PFL delayed their season in 2020 due to the pandemic. So she picked up a fight in Invicta to keep her busy, and it happened to be at 145. So she has got experience of the weight cut. She's just not done it obviously consistently.
Yeah.
So the UFC were interested, but they weren't going to bet big on her until they could see her consistently. And then also Nunes went and lost the 135 title. So she's tied up there for a while, so they can't do the Nunes-Harrison fight initially, with Harrison just coming straight into that. So they'd probably have to look at having her fight somebody else at 145, and then so it was a wee bit too much for them to go big on it. But Bellator were very keen, if nothing else, because obviously they've got Cyborg. So the sort of top women in MMA really, outside Shevchenko, when you look at the bigger women, you've got Nunes, you've got Cyborg, and you've got Harrison. They're your kind of three top dogs currently, for the slightly bigger ladies. So the money fight outside of the UFC is Harrison and Cyborg. So what's happened is that the PFL have had a match clause. So they have matched Bellator's offer to Harrison. So Harrison has re-signed with the PFL.
Right.
Part of that deal, though, is that they have promised that they will do everything in their power to do the Cyborg fight, even if that means a cross-promotion with Bellator.
Yep.
So Bellator haven't said that they'll no do it, but Coker or any of the other staff at Bellator haven't come out and said that they will do it. It's just something that's out there. But the two top dogs at PFL, Ray Sefo and the other guy, Don Davis. The two of them have spoken publicly about being really keen to make this fight happen at some point in the near future, and they're willing to cross promote. And the Davis went as far as to, I think it was on Twitter, I'm not sure, I think he put it on Twitter, see that on Instagram, he put out a challenge to Scott Coker, basically said, let's do Harrison v Cyborg, and whoever's fighter loses, that organisation has to cover the promotional costs for the event.
Right. Okay.
So, a wee bit of banter going on with it.
Oh, yeah, about that, man. Aye.
Bellator do have previous for co-promoting and sharing fighters across promotions.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be unbelievable to see it happen, but if I'm being honest, I wouldn't put money on seeing it.
Right. Why is that?
Because it's kind of uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm.
When Bellator's done co-promotions, they've worked with the likes of Ryzen, who's a Japanese company. They don't have a big presence in the US or in the West at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a lot of power in the dealings there. But in trying to do something with PFL, you're talking about another big sports league in the US.
Yeah.
So in a sort of business side of things, the negotiations get very tricky there.
Yeah.
They've both got TV deals, etc., in place in the US, and in a lot of the kind of Western countries that are big for MMA. So it would get very interesting at the negotiating table.
Mm-hmm. But do you not think that they could work out a deal that's best for the two of them?
They could, but it's business.
It would just be, I know
So-
it's business. I know. It would get tricky.
There's absolutely a way of doing it.
Well,
It could be... Sorry, man. It could be Harrison going over to Bellator, and she's repping PFL, but it's part of a big Bellator event. That, to me, makes the most sense. Because PFL, they've got their Challenger series, which is like a development thing, and then they've got their main sort of season.
Yeah.
It's all well structured. They do have standalone fights on their in-season cards, because obviously they're not going to fill out a full fight card just with league fights that are in their in-season thing. So they do standalone fights to fill out the cards.
Yeah.
But I mean, Harrison's going to be in the tournament, so it doesn't. That just doesn't make sense to me. What makes more sense is for them to run through the tournament, and then assuming Harrison wins it again, that would probably still be the 155 tournament she would be in. Then at the end of the year, or like January, February next year, have Harrison go to Bellator, repping PFL, wearing PFL gear or whatever, and do a big main event over in Bellator. That makes the most sense to me, but whether or not that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense because obviously she's competing in the tournament. So what you got to do, sacrifice one of their fights for that, you know what I mean?
No.
So you'd have to have it in, the way that you said. I guess it also comes down to the desire of the two companies to get this fight or to make this fight, and whether it makes sense, like financially, for them. You know.
Aye. Is the potential payoff for the companies on a business sense worth the hassle of doing the deal to co-promote?
Yeah.
That's all. When it comes to co-promotion, that's always the question. Obviously, in boxing, it's a necessary evil the way that works, but it's never nice. It's never easy.
Aye.
So it doesn't really bode well. But I mean, never say never. Never say never. I don't know what Cyborg's deal is like, so I don't know when she would be due to leave Bellator. But I think Kayla Harrison, she's re-signed for like 3 years or something, so she's kind of tied up for a wee while.
Right. But so when you said that, so the PFL had a clause in the previous contract, is that what you're saying? Where they could match any offer that's made to her, and then she would have to re-sign?
I don't think that she had to re-sign, but if if I think it was more a protection for her. So if they were going to re-sign her, they would have to match the best offer for elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, they would have to match. Right. Okay. So they've matched Bellator.
Yep.
Why do you think she went to the PFL instead of Bellator? The potential money is.
I think a lot it will be the devil you know. She's
right. Okay.
She's comfortable there. She's the top dog there. She's their biggest star. She will be confident that she can win the tournament again. Because they've not signed anybody that worries her. The biggest challenge she's had. She's finished everybody bar one person. I don't remember the lass's name, but she's fought her twice. It's went to a decision twice, but she's won twice.
Yeah.
There's nobody else there that she's going to be worried about.
Right.
So for better or worse, she's comfortable there. She feels like she's guaranteed $1 million check come the end of the year.
Yep.
And they're telling her that they're going to push to get this big money fight with Cyborg. So it's kind of win-win for her.
How do you feel about it as a fight fan, though, that she's going to sign for no one of the big companies? Like she's...
Aye.
Like, you're not going to see her in kind of dream fights in the UFC. Is it good for the business? I mean, what way do you sit with it?
I'm on the fence a wee bit. In terms of just purely as a fight fan, I'm disappointed. I would have loved to see... would have loved to see her go to Bellator or the UFC, test herself and see if she lives up to the hype. Because, like, she is talked about as being right up there with Cyborg, with Nunes, with Shevchenko, for being one of the best. But we haven't seen her against world-class opponents. We just haven't. And I've got... Those question marks for me around the weight. It's all well and good having a single fight at 145, but if you're going to fight 3 or 4 times a year at 145, is that going to be too draining on her? Is that going to be too big a weight cut? Because she is a big girl, so she is. She's
big lassie.
Carries a lot of muscle. She's got a really athletic frame, so that weight cut isn't going to be kind on her. So I would like to have seen her challenge herself. She's won that tournament twice there. She's got money in the bank. She's got a name about herself now. She's what's her age now? It's 30 something. She's kind of early to mid 30s, so she's not got that long left.
I wonder if that's why she's made the decision then. She's kind of summing up how she goes out.
So,
in your opinion, do you think that she is as good as what they say she is? Like, do you think that she could go in the ring with Nunes or Cyborg and win?
Yes.
Right.
But she lacks the experience at the highest level. She's got it in judo.
Yeah.
Two-time Olympian or whatever it is. But it's going to be different in front of the big lights, or under the big lights, sorry. So there is a question mark around it. I don't think she would. I think mentally she's strong enough, like to get to the Olympics twice. I think she's got 2 golds for the Olympics. So to achieve that, she has to be like just an absolute competitor and mentally strong and everything. So I don't doubt that. Yeah. But there's a whole other side to it in MMA when you've got the media run about you asking questions, etc., etc. The press conferences that she would have to do leading into a big fight. Yep. She's not got that in the PFL in the same level. So it is possible that behind closed doors she would completely trounce Cyborg and Nunes, but under the big lights, maybe she falters and makes a mistake. The other thing is, I haven't seen her against a really high level striker, so I would be very, very interested to see if she could hang long enough with Nunes and Cyborg that she could get the fight to the ground and do what she does. So, aye. I'm very interested to see if they can make the Cyborg fight. If they do make the Cyborg fight, I'll be very disappointed if she never makes her way to the UFC, assuming she performs well, obviously.
Right. Because you want to see her fight against like Nunes.
I'd love to see her against Nunes. She, in my mind, Nunes, especially since we've seen Nunes beat Cyborg, in my mind, Nunes is the only sort of real, what would you call it? I don't know. Don't have a real argument
boss.
for. I mean, she's the best ever female fighter at this point in MMA.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that. 2-division champion and seeing what she's done. So, and she's got very good hands. She's a really good striker, and she's a Brazilian black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So, to me, she's the biggest challenge for Harrison. So, Cyborg's an interesting one purely because of the hands, the striking ability of Cyborg would be a really interesting test for Harrison. But I see Nunes as the bigger threat.
Okay.
Right, so before we start looking at some recaps, somebody call 911 because there is a fire afoot. It's time for Paul's Burning Desire.
Oh. Oh Lord Jesus, there's a fire. Oh Lord Jesus, there's a fire. Jesus, 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 there's a fire. As always, there is a fire. So this one's about a theoretical one for you lads. Theoretically, in a heavyweight contest within an octagon, who would win? John Bones Jones is a heavyweight or a prime Fedor? Who would win the fight?
Ooh, I like a hypothetical. That's a good one. That's a hypothetical within a hypothetical because we've yet to see John Jones at heavyweight.
I was just going to say, like,
yeah.
I haven't
If Inception was hypothetically about MMA, this would be a hypothetically Inception-y question. So, talk me through it, lads.
I mean, for me, it would have been a lot easier if we'd seen Johnny Bones Jones compete at heavyweight a couple of times.
Obviously, aye. This is why it's such a...
I mean,
play jazz
my
with
gut, and I think this is probably just because we've seen him dominate heavyweight for a long time, would be to go with Fedor, but again, Johnny Bones Jones is very, very, very good fighter. A prick, but a very, very good fighter. So, yeah, you can't. I couldn't just rule him out. Like,
how would the fight go? How would it go?
I mean, it would be somebody would get knocked out. Like,
so you're saying it's a fight.
That's for sure. Aye, I think the two of them would just stand up and knock lumps at each other.
Trade.
I think with Jones though, Jones has more flair, I would say, than Fedor. His striking is he has more in his arsenal.
They pointy elbows, man.
Well, aye, and the elbows, bloody hell.
They front elbows, man.
Aye. I would say if Johnny Bones could last past the second round, it would go to he would win the fight.
Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So two potential. So you're going to go with Jones, you reckon? If he can live with him for the first round, he's got a good chance.
If he can live with him through the first two rounds,
right?
Aye, I think he would win.
Okay. Michael?
Okay, so let me start this with...
He's going to get scientific here.
Controversial opinion just to start it, right?
Can tell.
If you had said Fedor at his best, John Jones at his best at light heavyweight, seeing as Fedor's a small heavyweight, Fedor cuts down to light heavyweight to challenge John Jones,
right?
I would say John Jones walks through him.
Right, okay. However,
we don't know how John Jones is going to cope with a heavyweight frame.
Yep.
So it's this inception aspect. It's this hypothetical question within hypothetical question. For me, I'm thinking a couple of things. Jones, we know, has 4 inches. Just like 6 foot high. So Jones has got 4 inches in height.
Aye.
And 8.5 inches in reach.
So he's got a lot more range.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't know it was that much.
Fedor's 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. John Jones is 6'4" with an 84.5-inch reach.
I mean, the height doesn't bother me, but the reach. Sheesh.
And Jones is possibly the best ever in MMA at fighting from. I mean, there's an argument whether he's the best ever, but that side, he's unquestionably one of the best at fighting. Not so much from distance, but utilising distance.
Aye.
He can control the distance as good as anybody I've ever seen. I think that Jones is good enough and has enough of a flair, as Harvey said, to hang with Fedor on the feet. I think we've seen him against enough people that hit hard to know that he can hang on the feet. I think that Fedor has a similar striking style to Daniel Cormier, although he definitely hits harder and he's slightly bigger.
Yep.
Similar boxing kind of style. And kind of sort of similar build. Fedor's slightly slimmer and slightly taller, but there's not much in it between the two of them.
Definitely a stocky pair of men, aye.
Aye. So I think Jones gets the better of it on the feet. I think where it gets interesting is the inevitable clinch and inevitable takedown of John Jones in my eyes. I think John Jones puts Fedor down, but Fedor is notoriously dangerous off his back. He doesn't play close guard. He doesn't just try and hug you until the ref stands up. He's going to strike from his back and he's going to throw up his legs and look for submissions. He's going to look for triangles and arm bars. I think there's a good chance that he catches Jones in something at some point.
Yep.
And then it becomes a question of, can Jones escape / survive? I think that John Jones has ridiculous ground and pound. He showed that, especially in his sort of rise to the title in his first couple of defences. You look at the way he mauled Mauricio Shogun Rua, Matt Hamill, the fight that he got disqualified in that one, but the way he destroyed him on the floor. Vera before he won the title. There's a few fights where he would take the guy down and he would brutalise them on the floor. I think he does that to Fedor, but in the process, Fedor catches him in something. And then I would point to the Vitor Belfort fight.
Yep.
He caught John Jones with a key lock, I think. It was either a key lock or a
nearly
Kimura.
broke his arm, didn't he?
Just about broke his arm.
Aye.
It was horrible. But
Jones, he had him in there for a long time as well.
Jones toughed through it and was able to escape. And Vitor, you could argue, I mean, Fedor's probably got a slightly better ground game, but Vitor Belfort started out in jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu for a long, long time. He's a really good grappler. And he couldn't finish John Jones. John Jones escaped and finished Vitor. So I feel like Jones gets the better of the striking. Fedor pushes into the clinch, roughs him up a bit, but Jones ultimately gets probably like a body lock and a trip, takes him down, starts brutalising Fedor on the ground. Fedor's looking done, flings the legs up, goes for the Hail Mary armbar, just about breaks Jones's arm, but he manages to slinky his way out, and then he finishes Fedor on the ground.
Right, okay, so
I'm saying Jones TKO inside 2 rounds via ground and pound.
Via ground and pound. There you go.
Cool.
Also, one thing I didn't mention, in this hypothetical, it's very likely, being that it's heavyweight, we would see a Fedor at 230 or less, and John Jones at 250, 255. So not only has he got the height and reach, he's got weight.
Big weight
strength.
advantage
Way
as well.
over the top here, my right.
Yep.
Interesting, lads. I had nothing to add to that. That was beautiful, lads. Wow.
Can I ask a question
Of course you can.
to you, Michael? If when John Jones fights at heavyweight, obviously you're saying that obviously he does get talked about as being one of the best MMA fighters of all time, if not the best. What happens if he moves up to heavyweight and he's absolutely terrible?
I mean, is it possible?
I mean, just as a hypothetical, like, does that kind of tarnish the talks about him being one of the best ever?
I think it would sully the short-term memory of him, but I think he's done enough damage to his character with his shenanigans outside the octagon that it would probably be a case of looking back at like what was and what could have been, and talking about how he was probably the greatest talent that we've ever seen in the UFC, and his run at light heavyweight was probably the best ever of that division, and there's a solid argument that what we've seen him at light heavyweight is enough to say that he's the GOAT. But it would be sad to see if he does eventually get a heavyweight fight and he looks at a dog shite. That would be sad to see. We're at a point now where it could go either way. His relationship seems to be a wee bit better with the UFC, but they still don't have a contract fully ironed out. He's not signed in like a new deal or anything, I don't believe. And he publicly announced a few weeks ago that his fiance's officially left him. She's away with the kids. Somewhat unsurprisingly, after everything's went on. Sure. So what that does to his mental state, I don't know. So I don't know if he ever gets his shit together and gets back in there. Maybe this is the wake-up call that he needs. But I've said that a couple of times when things have happened. So I'm not really holding my breath in it. There's so many fights that I would love to see involving him at heavyweight. I genuinely think he could have as good a run at heavyweight as he did have at light heavyweight under the right circumstances.
Yeah. Who would you like to see him fight first at heavyweight?
Probably Stipe. Stipe is just about the only guy, other than maybe like a Curtis Blades or something, but he's just not as good overall. He's about the only guy that can sort of challenge Jones in terms of athleticism and speed.
Right.
So one of the biggest question marks for Jones moving up is how does he handle having that bigger, heavier frame? Can his cardio hold up? Is he as quick and explosive as he was at light heavyweight? Does he get into the second round and think, holy shit, this was a mistake, I can't breathe? You know what I mean? So
nope.
It's easy to point to the Oven St. Preux fight. Jones come back after quite a long layoff. In the lead up to that fight, he had fell in love with powerlifting, and he had added quite a bit of size to his frame. He was noticeably more muscular going into that fight, and it had a clear impact on his cardio.
Right.
So it's quite easy to point to that, and I'm sure when he I'm sure when he has inevitably a fight in the UFC heavyweight division, the media will ask questions about that, and potentially his opponent will point to that and questions from the media. I think the way he's handling the move up to heavyweight, other than the personal life stuff, it's the right way. He's taking a lot of time to allow himself to become accustomed to living and training at that higher body weight. I think that's a very sensible approach. And the fact that he's got a history of coming into fights with like a really solid game plan. Doesn't he always stick to the game plan? But, you know, he's quite a thoughtful and analytical fighter. So I think he'll approach it right. But the test would be somebody like Stipe, who's going to really push him in terms of his cardio.
Right.
But if he can walk through somebody like Stipe, then Jesus Christ, put him in a title shot ASAP, no matter who the champion is. Because, I mean, the thing is, if John Jones can come back and have a heavyweight fight and look really good, then you know that there is a clock ticking. There is a small window of time before he does something stupid again. So you need to capitalise on it. You need to get the 2 or 3 fights out of him before he does something stupid and derails his career again.
God damn it, we got 6 months, boys. Let's get it done.
Like, if he wins against Stipe, Dana needs to run to the back, get Hunter, the main lawyer guy, and whoever else, and be like, right, boys, 6 months, 3 fights, let's fucking go.
Just they let the WWE and have a run in at the end. Like, what's this? Oh!
God.
Francis Ngannou's running to the ring with a chair.
If he walks through
The more it wants.
Stipe, they need to go into the blower to Lesnar immediately.
Brock Lesnar's music hits. Dun.
God.
Paul Heyman running out. Holding a WWE title above his head.
Oh, man.
There's some facts in
Right. Before we
derail.
too far off the rails here, let's get about some recaps. First of all, thank you for the question, Paul. As always,
You're welcome,
It
lads.
was a good one.
Aye.
Did you see the boxing for last night? It was Lee Wood defending his WBA featherweight title against Michael Conlan. Did you just catch it?
I did indeed see a wee bit of it.
Saw a wee bit.
Aye. Was you sure it wasn't a Rocky film, buddy? I'm certain that was a
It might as well have been.
If he dies, he dies.
It had everything. It had absolutely everything.
I swear at the end of that last round, I heard a do 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 do.
Oh man, the man shouting at his missus, we did it and all that.
Oh, no.
Harvey, did you catch it? See pictures? Read about it?
No, I did. No, I haven't. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, instant classic, first of all.
Right.
Conlan started fast and hard to the point where at the end of the first round, he knocked Wood down. And Wood looked, the way Wood fell, it was like a tree that had been felled, man.
Oh, sweet man. Aye.
So it looked like the fight was donezo then. And then through the 5th round, it was all not all Conlan, but Conlan was the aggressor. He was putting on a clinic. The lad's a 2-time Olympian, so he's got like a really good kind of stick and move kind of style. Like he's very, very elusive, great head movement. He's really good at counter shots and moving in and out. So he was just tooling Wood up. And then towards the end of the 5th round, going into the 6th round, Lee Wood started to have a bit of success, started pushing back. And then he just sort of slowly took control of the fight for there, man. The last couple of rounds, he was just picking Conlan apart. He was landing big shot after big shot.
Right.
The finishing sequence was something straight out of a Rocky movie, man.
Right.
He backed Conlan against the ropes, hit him with a 3 or 4 piece combo, body head, and then Conlan started to fold like a deck chair, right? He knocked him out,
Right.
and he started sinking, and he kind of went into a squat, and as he's going down, Wood hits him, I think, to the chest, somewhere in the kind of torso.
Oh, shit.
And that sort of was enough to start moving Conlan back. Anyway, arse first through the bottom rope, right? His arse landed in the apron, and then his upper body kept going, and he fell backwards like head first out the ring.
Right, aye.
Jesus, man, it sounds made up.
He did get taken away in a
beautiful.
stretcher, so he did. I think he'd go to hospital.
Oh, did he?
Thankfully, he's okay though. The guy's all right.
He's had an interview since. He seems to be
I've
doing
social
all right.
media and so on and so forth.
But he says like he woke up as they were taking him away, and he's like, "Oh, what happened? Did I lose?"
Oh, God damn it. I thought I was dreaming. Like, did this actually happen? Oh, man.
It was just one of the fights, man. One of
Jesus.
It was unreal.
Aye.
That is how you do a hometown performance. Take note, George Taylor.
Aye.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
Aye.
Because am I right in saying that Wood is from Nottingham, isn't he?
Aye.
Where the fight was? Aye.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't start great. He was a bit slow to start when Conlan took advantage of that. But he well and truly won that fight.
He certainly finished well.
Aye.
Exactly, man. Aye. He went for the end.
Aye, cracking fight. Absolutely cracking fight.
I want KFC. I say I want KFC now. Because see when you say the 3 or 4 piece combo.
The old George Masvidal pattern.
I was so confused there, man.
The old 4-piece meal.
I'm gonna have to go and get KFC in a minute.
Aye, so anybody that's not seen that, go and find yourself some highlights, or if you've got the time, just sit and watch it. Gee, honestly, instant classic. It was really good. And that ending sequence, as I say, was straight out of a Rocky film. Straight on
I'll
movie.
definitely go and check it out after this.
Definitely will. Go down as fight of the year, potentially.
It's up there in the talks, 100%, man. So,
Sure.
MMA. My apologies to the listeners. So, last week, I do believe, I could be wrong, but from memory, I think I just said that it was UFC this week. I don't think I mentioned anything else. So it transpires that I've been let down by the website that I like to use the most. And ultimately I've let myself down by no double checking my sources. There was indeed a busy weekend of fights. We had ONE FC, we had Eagle FC, we had Bellator, and we had the UFC. So I will, going forward, do my damnedest to just check all the promotions' own websites and just make sure I'm keeping on top of what's coming, because I quite clearly can't trust that website that will no name.
Due diligence, all boy. So,
did you catch any of the fights from the various MMA promotions over the weekend?
The only stuff that I seen, honestly, was some of the stuff from ONE FC.
Right.
Aye, and that was about it.
Okay. Paul?
My entirety of UFC and MMA watching this weekend is considered of one tweet which showed Khalil Roundtree fold a guy up. Basically. Unfortunately, my friend.
He was like a bloody animal in that fight.
That's what I also saw, is that it was actually good for the boy because they let him go there, effectively. The boys beat, at least that's it done. Like,
he just kind of turtled up.
Aye.
Aye. That's one to go and watch, man.
Is that kicking a downed opponent, by the way? Just about, or is because he was...
He kicked the body.
It's because it's body kick. It sounds, aye. By Christ, did he kick the body?
Aye.
He fucking volleyed the body.
Aye, not... Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to it in a second.
Aye, no, so, absolutely.
Let's start on ONE FC. My God, that was a fun fight card, I've got to say. It was good. I love the way they put it together. It was basically 3 fight cards in one. You had a Muay Thai card, then you had a kickboxing card, then you had an MMA card. It was a cracking night of fights, man. I'll no go through everything, but there was a Muay Thai fight. To see Liam Nolan and Kim Kyung-wook.
Yeah.
Check that one out, man. Nolan is an animal.
Oh, aye.
That Liam Nolan is really good. So that's one to watch.
I think he's only about 24 or something.
He's young. Aye.
He's young. Like.
Yep.
But aye, it was that was it.
And then did we see what else was there was so many really good fights. I think we just dive straight up to the top of the card. Because I'll be here all night if I try and talk about them all. In the co-main event, it was Bibiano Fernandez, defending champion, taking on challenger John Hands of Stone Lanaka. That was a fun fight.
Oof. That knockout was...
Aye. John Lineker is notorious for playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. If he's basically a miniature Vanderlei Silva. All he does is throw hooks. That is it. He walks forward and throws hooks. That is it. That is his game plan in entirety. Left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook. A-B.
Circle X.
Basically, man, permanently holding in R1 so it's the mad overhands. Arms like window.
So it basically started with John Lineker stalking him. Fernandez is moving on the outside. He's trying to step in and throw kicks and punches. It was kind of looking like Lineker might not get there. He might never land a punch. And then sort of midway through the first round, Lanaka cracks a left hook on Fernandez that puts him down. Or did the first one just wobble maybe? I don't remember. Anyway, hits him with a left hook. And it's like, holy shit, he's going to run on the top of him. They're in this crazy firefight, rock'em sock'em robots, and then Fernandez cracks Lanaka and knocks him down, and then, just all hell breaks loose. And then I think they made it to the second round, didn't they? Second round. Made it into the second round somehow. And then, Lanaka just knocked Fernandez out.
Left hook. See if you go onto 1FC's, go to 1FC.com, there's a slow-mo of the knockout. So the left hook, and then you just see Fernandez just like...
They were kind of skirting around the cage, weren't they? And when Fernandez kind of falls back, sort of moving in a semi sort of circular motion. That was a cracker, man. So, new champion, new bantamweight champion in John Lanaka. He was a standout in UFC, but he had sort of discipline issues, weight cutting issues.
Yeah.
He ended up sort of fizzling out. But he also had that potential. Just a what'd you call it? Granite chin. That's what I'm looking for. Granite chin, and
granite
obviously
chin,
that knockout power, man, and fun style to watch. So, it's cool to see him sort of finally make it to a world title. And he seems healthier in one. Obviously, they have their weight cut procedures, so he can't be killing himself to try and make it down to flyweight or whatever. So, he seems settled there. And Fernandez, man, he's, I would say that guy's like 40. He's had, I don't know how many fights. He's had a long career. So, I dare say he's not finished. Like he'll come back for this, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about or anything in his part. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
He's had a great career. He put on a great fight there. It's like somebody's chin had to go the way they were fighting. So.
I can confirm after seeing the knockdown that he indeed did knock him in the next week. Sweet Christ, I've just done the due diligence and checked it out.
So,
advise anybody to.
In the main event, we had Than Lee taking on Gary Tonin. Than Lee, the defending featherweight champion. Gary Tonin, the challenger. So this was a really interesting one because it was a total callback to the days gone past, the MMA, where it's style versus style. This fight was very much a striker versus a grappler. Gary Tonin is one of the best submission wrestlers and no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors ever.
Right.
He is really, really good. Than Lee is an absolute prodigy in terms of striking, with crazy knockout power for his size. And basically what happened was a bit of back and forth for the first minute or so. Gary Tonin looking capable with the kind of in and out movement, throwing strikes, but it very much looked like Than Lee was biding his time.
Yep.
I would say Tonin caught a kick for Lee, and then dropped down to go for a leg lock. They got entangled.
That's right, yep.
Lee showed really good defence. Transpires he's coached by his grappling coach is Ryan Hall, UFC fighter, who's a phenomenal grappler and really good at leg locks. So he's got a good instructor there. So he showed good defence, survived the leg lock attempts, and got in a position where he was able to offload a couple of hooks to Tonin, who was on his back, and he knocked Tonin out cold with his ground and pound.
Right. It was interesting to see because he thought he's gone for the leg lock here, and then Than Lee just kind of swiveled about and was like, "Oh, there you are," and just cracked him a couple of times, and it's like, "Oh, it's over." It's like, oh well, here we go. For a potential submission to get knocked out.
Aye.
It's good though.
It was a bit odd looking at first because it didn't look like the biggest punch ever.
No,
but Tonin just kind of went a bit limp, and then Lee hit him another couple of times before the ref got in there. But then when you watch the slow-mo, it was like, oh, no, that was a bad right hand that knocked him out. So aye, that wee guy can generate some amount of power. So he can. Right. Eagle FC 46. I'm not going to go through the full card. I did scan through. I watched some of the fights. In the main event, this was the interesting one. We had Kevin Lee, former UFC fighter, versus none other than Diego Sanchez, former UFC fighter. So this one was a question of Kevin Lee joining Eagle UFC. He was like a kind of big money signing. They made a big deal about it. Kevin is a guy who had a lot of potential, a lot of talent, was sort of destined for title shots, etc. But he never quite got there when he was put under the big lights and sort of number one contender fights. He would crumble.
Yep.
He wouldn't perform. He would lose.
Right.
So the question was basically, is he got that out of his system? Can he show the best of himself here? He seemed pretty composed, but Diego Sanchez landed a massive leg kick just above the knee on Lee's left leg, an outside leg kick. So that happened within like the first 10 seconds. So Lee went from coming out the corner, bouncing on his toes, to now walking flat-footed for the rest of the fight. So it did seem that visibly something happened to that leg, and he wasn't able to move the same. So it changed the dynamic of the fight, but he did pick up the unanimous decision. He did win pretty comfortably.
Right. But
it's hard to tell, whether or not he's going to live up to his potential.
Yeah. Have we got to see that in Eagle FC though? Because I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the roster of Eagle FC looks like. Is there folk in there that's got to really push him?
I would say so. They've not got names, but what they've got is a connection to Dagestan and that side of the world. Yeah. So they're bringing through a lot of really talented guys.
Right. Yeah.
They're doing their best to sign big names, like big American talent and stuff. This is the second card they've put on in America. So they're really looking to cement themselves over here. Or over there, I guess. But that like Kevin Lee is just about the biggest name that they've signed so far, I think. Although in saying that, they have announced that they've signed Junior Dos Santos. So he was meant to be fighting, was it Pulev? And Triad. But obviously that card got indefinitely postponed, so that fight fell through because of that. So Junior's been looking for something else to do. Eagle FC have offered him a contract to come back to MMA, so he's going to be fighting there in the coming months. And they've also just signed Hector Lombard, who former Bellator champion, former UFC fighter, didn't do quite as well in UFC, but nonetheless, and former BKFC champion. That's where he's been fighting most recently.
Oh, I didn't know it was BKFC.
Lombard's been fighting BKFC. He was a cruiserweight champion for a time now. So he's coming back to MMA now. He's also signed. So they're definitely making waves. But the problem is they're signing guys that are
a bit older.
They're not necessarily at their peak. Kevin Lee's the kind of exception in that he's still young enough that his physical peak might still be there. It's just whether or not he can sort of get his shit together mentally. It's always been the question with him. So they're probably going to build their own stars as time goes on, but watching it, you can tell that they're a kind of young organisation. I mean, the number can be deceiving, so it's Eagle FC 46, but really it's only about the 10th-ish event under Khabib and his ownership. It was an organisation prior to them picking it up. They've kept the number. Gotcha. So it's the 46th event for this organisation overall, but with the new management, it's 10-ish. So, I mean, I take that for what it is. You can see they're trying new things. They seem to be doing a bit of the kind of fake it till you make it type of thing. They're putting a bit of effort into doing like pre and post show stuff. They're trying to make video packages, making a big deal about like interviewing the fighters before, like in the lead up to the fights, and then making sort of promo packages to put out there and stuff. Yeah. So they're doing the right things. They've got themselves an app, this Flex TV thing. So that no matter where you are, in theory, you can watch the fights live. You can go and watch the full fights, the full fight replays, the full event replays and stuff like that. You can watch it live. So they're ticking a lot of the right boxes, but there's just like for instance, in the first or second fight, I think it may have been the first fight of the night. So Chael Sonnen and Henry Cejudo are two of their commentators. Chael Sonnen was yapping away as part of the commentary, and then they realised that his mic wasn't working for whatever reason. So, like, it's just like sort of small teething things on the production side that just sort of shows where they're at. But they're doing the right things in terms of putting good fights together and bringing up names, trying to make stars and that sort of thing. Khabib spent quite a bit of time with Dana White, picking his brain. Trying to figure out the best way of going about things. Dana White's got a soft spot for him, so I'm sure he's giving him a lot of good info. And love him or hate him, there's no many better promoters on this planet than Dana White. So it's a good guy to be able to learn from. So I don't doubt that we'll see them get better and sort of grow for here, kind of thing. But aye. And it was good to see Diego Sanchez get a fight there and look relatively healthy. Worth noting, actually, this was a £165 catchweight fight for reasons. Right. I don't know. I know that Kevin Lee, he's one of these tweener guys. He spoke a lot about wanting a 165 division. He's a bit small in terms of frame size for 170, but he struggles with the cut to 155. So I don't know if they're testing the waters here, or if in signing him they told him that he would get a 165 fight to start with before he has to pick a division or some shit. I don't know. I don't know the reasons, but so we'll see what happens next for them. Right, we're running out of time, so let's try and speed this up. Bellator 276 last night for us, so Saturday night, March 12th. Really good night of fights. No much in terms of big name value here. No, that's not to bash on them. It was still a great night of fights. It just doesn't have the big selling name value. So I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it because we've got a ton of time left. However, the I can't speak. The Phil Davis fight versus Julius Angelikas was pretty entertaining, even though it was mostly wrestling. I quite enjoyed it. Interesting to see Phil Davis still getting the job done like that at 37, 38, whatever he is now. He's looking like he's sort of slowly grinding his way back up towards a title shot in Bellator. So I was quite impressed by his ability to control Angelikas on the ground. In the main event, Adam Borix and Mads Burnell was a fun fight. Bellator's talking about it being an instant classic. Don't know if I quite go that far, but it was a really fun fight, well worth watching. 5-rounder. Obviously, this is the second event where Bellator's had the 5-round main event, non-title fight. So it was, that's one where it was like, you want that to be a 5-rounder. You wouldn't be satisfied after 3. You would have wanted to see more of them. So it's great that was a 5-rounder there. Aye. Right, UFC. So you've seen. Oh, Paul, you said you've seen. You've had a wee look at the Khalil Roundtree highlight for that. And Harvey, you've seen nothing of this?
No, seen nothing.
Right, okay. So again, I'll get the quick treatment then. I'll give you the highlights. So it was UFC Vegas 50. It was at the Apex in Las Vegas. So main event was Magomed Ankalaev and Thiago Santos. Sorta a title eliminator.
Right.
Ankalaev picked up the win here in unanimous decision. Quite honestly, didn't look great in doing so, but I don't think you were ever going to get a number one contender out of this fight, but it does sort of help to clear up the title picture at light heavyweight. Song Yadong in the co-main event versus Marlon Moraes.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful knockout for Song Yadong. 100% you need to watch that.
I've just seen it with the kind of rising kind of... It's not quite an uppercut, it's not quite a hook, it's somewhere in between, isn't it?
It's kind of like a shovel hook.
Aye.
You would probably, because of the combo that he throws, it's basically a 1, 2, 3, 4. He throws a jab, but he pulls back on it, so it's effectively a feint. That gets Moraes to sort of throw the hands up. He then goes with the right hand over the top rather than the straight right, clips him in the ear, rattles Moraes, the guard opens, left hook, and then the right sort of shovel uppercut, corkscrew uppercut, whatever you want to call it, puts him down. Yeah. It was tremendous, man. It kind of looked like a walk-off knockout, right? But what happened, if you look at the slow-mo, the uppercut lands, Moraes falls flat back, and Yadong goes to wave him back up. He wants the referee to step in and tell Moraes to get up, but in doing so realises that Moraes is basically knocked out.
Done.
So he kind of has this wee moment of like, right, okay, he's not... this kind of awkward hesitation, and then as he's doing that, the referee dives in head first to stop the fight. But if you watch it in real time, it works out for Yadong because it makes the knockout seem that much cooler. That he's just like hit him and then just like stood there and like, what? And then walked away.
You say, what?
Aye. So it was a fun wee fight, and the knockout was class, man. Khalil Roundtree, as you alluded to, Paul, defeating Carl Robertson. Class. Just brutal for Roundtree, man. It was a scheme.
Luke's really busy. Luke's a very busy fighter. A lot of strikes.
It was fairly competitive, back and forth. Roundtree getting the better of it, but fairly, Robertson was holding his own, and then right hook, I think, puts Robertson down, and then they get into this kind of scramble. Roundtree's sort of moving around about him, hitting for the top. He then sort of backs away from him, and Robertson goes to get up. And then Khalil steps in with a massive roundhouse into the body that's kind of partially blocked on Robertson's forearm, but like you could see it hurt, man. It was a big kick, and that knocked him backwards. And then Khalil steps in with the last couple of shots so that the referee stops it. It was impressive, man. Roundtree looked like an absolute animal. Drew Dober, Terence McKinney. Another must-view, another must-see. Terence McKinney fought in the last card, so he's fought the last one, the 1-4, so he's fought 2 weeks ago.
1-4.
Took this fight late notice, and he came in like he had a point to prove, or like he didn't want to be there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he came in like, I'm not getting paid by the hour, so I'm not hanging about kind of thing. He started fast. He was throwing flying roundhouse kicks and jumping knees and all sorts. He had Drew Dober in a lot of trouble. He landed a knee and then followed up with hooks, and he nearly finished Dober, but Dober is tough. And I think that Terence McKinney made a bit of a mistake in that he went to the ground with Dober a couple of times, which allowed Dober to stay in the fight. I think if he had signalled for him to get back up in the feet, kept it standing, it would have been his fight to lose. But he allowed Dober to recover, and ultimately Dober landed a massive knee. And he picked up the TKO win. But really fun 1 rounder, man, at 3 or 4 minutes. Really fun, really good. Right, something I've not mentioned, bonus winners, right? So Song Yadong, for obvious reasons. Khalil Roundtree, for obvious reasons. Cody Brundage on the undercard. He beat Lungamabula, something like that. It was a good submission victory. He got a bonus for that. And Arzamat Murzakanov in the opener on the early prelims, he picked up a bonus for a flying knee knockout of Tafon Inchkui. That was a light heavyweight fight. It's quite impressive, actually. That's worth going and finding the highlights. Looked like a good, a wee fun fight, man. It didn't last very long at all. But the knee, Jesus Christ, that was, whoa. Inchkui went down like he had been scalped with a shovel or something. Like, it just fell back and went stiff. It was wild. Anyway, so individual performance bonuses. Once again, no fight of the night. And I don't quite know why. I've not seen any press releases to explain this or whatever. So
explain the reasoning.
I'm not sure what the deal is. But the main card opener, Alex Pereira, kickboxer, versus Bruno Silva, good striker, really fun fight. Should probably attain fight of the night. I don't know why it wasn't given. Went the distance. Alex Pereira picking up the decision. Well worth a watch. Aye. We don't have time to go through it round by round or whatever, but it was a back and forth battle. Pereira came close to stopping Silva a few times, but Bruno Silva is a tough man, and he hung in there. Really, really, really fun fight.
I see your man was fighting again. I'll punch me in the face and I'll keep walking forward. Chris Matino.
Aye, unfortunately.
Oh, the old green zombie.
Unfortunately, the referee wasn't going to let him play zombie this time. He decided just to stop the fight.
He's like, we're not going through this again.
Matino had the Hale chin defence thing again.
Did he?
Let's just block punches with my face scenario. Took a few too many. The referee was like, I don't like where this is going.
Not me.
So he called it. I don't think Matino got knocked down or anything. The referee didn't like the damage he was taking.
Aye.
Kind of unfortunate. You would have liked to have seen him get a win or two after the performance that he had against Sean O'Malley. You know what I mean? He was like an instant fan favourite for the amount of punishment he was able to take in that fight. So it would have been nice to see him pick up a win. But I mean, nevertheless, he still looks tough. So you can't take that away from him, man. He's like a total zombie. You can't put the guy down. Right. Before we conclude today's proceedings, would you like to flick on the light bulb and give us Harvey's highlight?
Oh, my highlight. Well, it might take a minute or two here. But this is oh god, this was something that actually Paul shared with us.
Okay.
By MMA Sound. And I'll just read it out to you. So MMA Sound posted this up. It says, normalised throwing in the towel in the UFC. Do you know what I'm talking about now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do, mate.
Yeah. So goes on to say, doctors and referees are checking for very basic functions and the fighters won't quit. So it's up to the corner to protect their fighter's future. Do they really need to see a UFC fighter get serious CTE before they take head damage seriously? Moicano earned fans last night, but lost brain cells in the process. The fact that this was a short notice last minute replacement should have made it very easy to take the fighter out of this fight. His future was secured. He's getting a big payday plus a favourable match up next time out. His corner literally stole Moicano's next fight from him. He will now be required medical leave for 6 months, which means he's sacrificing so much valuable time. He could have aimed for a quick return, which will not happen now. The fight was lost after the second. Moicano has 0 knockouts. He wasn't winning on points. And the chance he submits RDA, who hasn't been submitted in like 45 fights, is very slim. Now Moicano is most likely going to be fed to some prospect in 10 months to a year after everyone has forgotten what a warrior he is. Tragic.
True.
So, the highlight that I want to highlight out of that is that this is something that needs to be, yes, normalised. Yeah, you want to see your fighter win fights and tough it out, but there has to be a point where you know things are not going well, and the best thing to do for the fighter is to end the fight, throw in the towel, live to fight another day. Like, as it says here, he's now out for what? He requires 6 months of medical leave. Like, you know what I mean? How much money is that costing him? What's it doing to his health, like in the long term as well? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely, I would say this needs to be normalise, and maybe not just by the corner, but maybe doctors and referees being a bit more stringent. Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Aye. With their calls, you know. We all like to see when the fighters are standing up there, you know, giving it back and forth. But there has to come a point where it's, you know, it's getting dangerous, and it should be right. That's it. I mean, I know they do it to a certain degree, but I think it needs to be stricter.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with the sentiment in both the we need to remove the stigma from throwing in the towel. It should be normalised. We should see more corners protecting their fighters. They know their fighters better than anybody. The referee might think that a fighter's done. The corner might know better and know that he regularly takes that kind of punishment, and it looks bad, but it's no. And then the reverse is also true, and the referee might think the guy's got fight left in him, but the corner might see something that, like, no, he doesn't look right, we need to stop this. So 100% it should be normalised. And the fight in particular that's referenced, the RDA Moicano fight, Moicano should have been pulled from that fight after the third round. 100%. The fight should have been stopped there, so definitely agree with that. However, I would be remiss if I did not mention that I do not agree with the statement entirely. I think it's quite hyperbolous come the end. There's no guarantees that Moicano is out for 6 months. He will get a medical suspension, but he can, if he passes all his tests, he can come back sooner than that. And it's quite hypothetical in the way it talks about the potential impact to his career going forward and stuff like that. And the other thing is, I don't think that the corner should be thinking about any of that in the fight. They shouldn't be thinking, we need to throw the towel in now because he's done what he needed today, and if we stop the fight now, he'll get a big fight in 3 months. That shouldn't be the thought.
I know that shouldn't be the thought. It should be his health. Needs
to be cleared up, but 100% normalise throwing in the towel, protect the fighters. Their health comes first. It has to. Anyway, that was a bit random, but thank you for that highlight. It is a worthy highlight, definitely something that should be spoken about more and done more. 100%. Right, so I think we'll pretty much leave it there. We've got UFC London coming up next week. We'll know. We've spoke about it briefly before. The way things are, UFC are still promoting it as Volkov in the main event, Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. I'm not convinced that that's going to happen. Unless Volkov's already in the country, already got a visa, which I don't think he is. Then I don't see how the fight goes ahead. But I'm not going to waste time breaking down that fight and then it doesn't happen or whatever else. So we're we're getting towards the end of our time, so we'll leave it there. UFC London next Saturday night. If you're in the UK or Europe or whatever, bear in mind that this will be a good start time for us, with it being in the UK. So I don't know the exact start time right now, but it will probably be in the afternoon. It'll be like 4 PM, 5 PM, something like that. The prelims will start. So I'm very much looking forward to that. As long as I remember to watch them and put them on at the right time, then I'll be able to sit and watch the full fight card and still get to bed at a reasonable time. So happy days. So as always, if you have been, thank you very much for listening. If you could be so kind as to help us out, visit our website, read our blogs, listen to the podcast, use our links, do all these wee things that helps us out, but ultimately spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family members, spread the news, tell them about the podcast, and we will love you for a lifetime. So, I've been Mick, they've been Harvey and Paul. See you again next week.
Tattie, bye, drive.
Cheerio!
Bye the new.
Ta-da.